Okay, hello everyone. So we wanted to hop on here this week and talk about receiving. It's taking us, oops, don't have the mic on. It's taken us quite some time to get to the receiving message, I guess to say, the receiving live. It's been the most challenging, I guess, to adopt in our own lives, I would say. Um, Receiving is something that we're always doing, and yet from our experience and from our understanding and from what has been shared with us, it's really difficult for us to open up to true receiving unconditionally. And so this is why it's taken us so long to do a live on this compared to the other ones, because we kind of got the other ones down quite quickly. And this has been the one that we had to open up the most to, or expand the most into. So I guess here we go.
It's also about learning that everything is of service to you. So it's not just that you're giving and that you're creating, you're receiving in every now moment, because everything that's around you is either co-creating and in service, or just plainly in service to your creation. So if you're walking around not recognizing you are the receiver, then nothing can show up, because everything is a sign. So everything is trying to come to you. Everything is trying to show up for you. Everything is of service to you. And sometimes we are walking around without that awareness, or in denial that we've created that. So things can just not show up. So really stepping into that. And I know it's much easier than it sounds, but really understanding that, you know, that the food is also of service to you. The earth is of service to you because you're co-creating with it.
Yeah. So some like a little, I guess, metaphor, tagline, whatever, that came to me the other day when I was sitting thinking about receiving and how to open up more to receiving. The statement is, you live as you receive. And everything in your reality is a result of how open you are to receiving. And a lot of people, a lot of us, including ourselves, asked for stuff that we have not opened up to allowing into our lives. We have desires that we're not really open up to allowing in our life, because it may change our life. It may shift the people we are around. It may change our dynamic with our family. All of these things are preventing the natural flow of receiving to come to us. And so this is the area in which I cleared the most myself. And I had to go through a lot of, well, what would my life look like if I did open up to more? What would my relationships be like if I did open up to more? Am I okay with what those changes and shifts would be by opening up to more? And can I just allow the natural flow of everything that I want to come to me without putting limitations on it? Because that's what all of these conditions, resistances are. It's just limitation going, I'm only good enough for this. Unworthiness is a direct correlation, I found, to how much you're willing to receive. So if you're dealing with unworthiness, know that it's affecting this quadrant. It's affecting the receiving mode. It's affecting what you can experience in your life, because your life is a result of what you're open to receiving. Yeah, the statement, ask and it is given. It's given. You have not opened to receiving if it has not come into your life.
Or sometimes we expect it to come in a certain way. So we're only looking out for that, which means we're not really paying attention to all of the other ways that it's actually showing up. It's coming to you. You don't have to go and get it. You don't have to do anything. And sometimes that's really challenging, because you can feel like you want to do it, or you want to take ownership of it, or I did that, I created this. But in receiving, it's so almost passive that things just come to you. You don't have to go anywhere and get it. And it's just being aware where those pockets are open to come to you, and being aware that you can receive in all different ways. It's not just one way exchange, it's several thousand potentials or unlimited potentials around you in which you can receive. So being more open to that. And I have conversations almost on a daily basis with people about, they want more money. And the question I always ask them is, are you limited and relying on one salary? Are you limited on relying for time and exchange for money? Because if you're only in that, you can only receive in that exchange. You're not opening up to anything else to be able to receive.
Yes. And this does not mean, and I want us to be clear, this does not mean you need to start a side hustle, or you need to have
several revenue streams, multiple, passive income.
Yes. It's the knowledge of, it's the awareness of opening to the natural flow that is already coming to you and allowing the abundance to show up. And then if you feel inspired to get another revenue stream, then you act on the inspiration and the impulse. But it's not to say you need to go out and get that because that's how the money is going to come. It's the understanding of, am I open to allowing abundance to flow in all ways and potentials? Because abundance does not mean money, even though abundance is money. Abundance can also mean free. Abundance can also mean gifted. Abundance can also be energetic exchange. It could be bartering. It could be goods and services exchange.
Your bills or your fines just getting dismissed.
Yes.
It could be that the tax money that you were expecting is triple instead of what it is. So it's just being in the freedom and the flexibility of receiving and getting out of the mundaneness of, I give you this, so you must give me that. It's not a two-way communication. There's energy involved, there's potentials involved. So what are the potentials of receiving that you have today? Could you receive a compliment? Could you receive sunshine? Could you receive connection to earth? Could you receive healing? Could you receive a grocery, your fridge full of groceries? Could you receive a meal or a coffee from a friend? Could you receive a thank you from a stranger? Could you receive additional revenue in your bank account that came from nowhere? Like, there's so many areas where you would receive, but because we already wake up saying, I must go shopping, I must cook dinner, I must do this, I must do that, I must call my friend to see on her, I must call my mom. It's because doing that, we've already limited all of the potentials of receiving to come to us. So if you just try that, don't do that list, or be aware when you are doing that list, because guess what? The friend will come to you, the mum will call you, groceries will be delivered. You don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to do anything. It'll always come to you if you kind of get out of your own way and just leave space for it to be.
Yeah, that groceries is a great great point, a great example. Yes, because what we noticed now that we've opened up to receiving and truly understanding what receiving is, and that everything flows to you, we started seeing the reflection of delivery apps as the reflection of receiving mode. Like, you don't have to go anywhere anymore because these things come to you. And you could look at it as like, oh, we've gotten lazy, but we haven't. It's the natural process starting to be reflected in our lives. You never had to go anywhere. You never had to work hard. That was a concept we adopted. but that's not the natural process. The natural process is ask and it is given, and it flows to you. It's a flow. So these things are reflections of receiving in our world that is starting to emulate our natural thing, which is I can have anything I want in the palm of my hand, literally, for my phone right now. But eventually that leads to I can have everything I want in the palm of my hand because of instant manifestation. And that's where this ends up going, because you're so open to receiving that it must show up when you ask, and you've allowed the receiving. So it's removing these conditions, and these are just some reflections that I've noticed and we've noticed and we talked about since we started opening up even more to understanding how much receiving affects what we experience in our life.
Yeah. So think about something that you want to put in the receiving quadrant, and remember that what you want to receive is of service to you, the self, is of service to the collective, and is of service to the planet. So let's do an example of what would be in the receiving quadrant, just to kind of walk through it.
I think abundance is that's the place where most people on the planet has a problem with accepting abundance openly. So that's one that, and most people want more money. So it's a great place for us to start as an example for how do you open to more receiving. Now, when it comes to abundance, recognize that abundance just is. It is the natural order of your existence. You are abundant. Everything is abundant. It's designed for you to have abundance. Anytime you're not in abundance, quote unquote, not, and I put it in quotes of abundance, you're actually still in abundance of lack. You're in an abundance of I don't have. You're in an abundance of things have to come hard. You're in an abundance of all of these things, but either way, you're getting a lot of it. So if you can just recognize that you could write down, am I receiving abundance? If you can recognize that the answer is yes, it's just not the abundance you want, then switching to focusing the energy in the direction you do want is just a matter of changing either patterns, habits, or beliefs rather than the recognition of I don't have abundance. Because you are abundant, it's the natural process. What are you abundant in may not be what you want abundance to be. And this is an easy shift. So I use the abundance example because it's a recognition that you're already receiving. It's the natural process. You just may not be receiving what it is that you desire. And then that's just a looking into the beliefs, looking into unworthiness, looking into what patterns you have that is restricting your receiving of the other thing that you want rather than the things that you have. And then receiving becomes a lot easier in that quadrant.
So let's take abundance, for example. So abundance for the self. What would be next?
Abundance for the planet, abundance for the collective. Can you be a living example of what abundance, and I mean abundance in terms of wealth, abundance in terms of love, abundance in terms of joy, abundance in terms of play, full experiences, health for the collective?
So you could say something like, I want to be abundant for the self, for a greater experience and expansion in my light body, in my human body, in my experience. Okay. And then I want to be abundant, or I want abundance for the collective. How will that help the collective? It will develop a new timeline where everybody is abundance, which will create freedom, which will create more light on the planet, which will create happiness and joy and gratitude. Mm-hmm. And how will this help the planet? Well, if the self and the collective are in joy and gratitude and freedom of abundance from everything, then the planet will then move into a different dimensional reality where lower vibrational densities of lack cannot exist. So it's almost like you're creating a new timeline and a shift for more light and more abundance to even come through to the planet, for it to be received through the collective and then to be received through the self. Because
And
yourself is just the expression of a fractal of the planet, of the collective, and then what you physically experience. So that's why it's important to take all of those aspects into the quadrant, because it's a reflection of each other. It's one speck. And it works together. It's not separate from each other.
yes, and it removes those timelines, and the planet births new creations and new abundance. We lived in a world of scarcity and things looked like it was running out. But if you live in abundance, the collective lives in abundance, then the planet now births new levels of abundance for you to experience in your life. It could be new species, it could be new plants, it could be new waterways, it could be new land masses, it could be new possibilities and potentials that we haven't even thought of. So if you recognize that we've been experiencing a lack-based abundant planet, because the planet's still abundant, you could still grow abundance here and have abundance here. What would happen if we lived in an abundant planet? So this ripple changes across. It doesn't just remove lack, it also births new levels of abundance and growth. It's the understanding that the pie can grow and everyone can have the pie, rather than you trying to get your slice of the pie.
Yeah, it's an infinite pie, basically. Infinite possibility. So let's take another one. Let's do relationship. I want to be in receiving of a new love or a new relationship in my life. So again, we'll go to the self, the collective, and the planet. So I want a new relationship for the self, so I can have a partner that I can grow, share, and expand this life experience with. So how does that support and how does that support the collective? This relationship and this union that comes through growth and expansion will assist in setting an example for the collective that you can be individual and still grow with somebody and expand with someone and co-create on a level of maturity, love, equality, and expansion, and be an example of an unconditional loving relationship. And then how does that support, or how does that have anything to do with the planet? Your vibration of love and being free of limitation and conditions in love will have a ripple effect on everything and everyone around you.
Yeah.
So that will then affect the energy of the planet, because the planet will be almost like shining a light on that part of the grid where you are, which means the whole grid lights up.
Yeah. And the planet is unconditionally loving. It is, the earth is designed that it's called, we call it Mother Earth for a reason. Like there is so much truth in that statement, because it's an unconditionally loving planet. And when we all live in unconditional love, it amplifies the unconditional love of the planet itself, for it to then co-create new unconditionally loving dynamics, experiences, evolutions, expansion,
and when
for
you're
all
in
of us.
that vibration, you will already automatically start co-creating with the planet, because you're matching vibration of that. What's another one we can do?
Well, I just want to touch on this, because we've said it now in abundance and we said it now in relationships. And I feel like this is one of those fears that many people have. You're going to be an example for others. And the fear that this is true shuts down receiving mode completely. So moving beyond this idea of the fear of, well, people are going to look at me, people are going to judge me, people are going to they're going to talk about me. It's the example that you're being is not necessarily like that. That is a fear-based understanding of what being a living example is.
You don't have to, nobody's watching you. They're in their own bubble. But it's not about, it's your behaviors and locking in the vibrational frequencies of your thoughts, matching your actions, for then that to be a vibrational frequency that others can tune in and tap into, because that potential is there. They're just not aware of it until you kind of lock in that vibration.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily that they're watching what you're doing and then copy pasting and walking like you, talking like you, wearing the same clothes as you, or, you know, being your number one fan. It's not that type of situation. It's you creating the vibrational space and awareness of a love like this can exist, abundance like this can exist. You actually don't need to show or tell anybody about your relationship that you got from this amazing spiral, or the abundance that keeps coming through. You don't need to tell anybody. It's just the fact that it's happened and that it's bringing you joy and you're in your highest joy. That is enough for the vibration to carry on and for you to have that ripple effect for everyone around you, from your neighbors to your family, friends, to however many people you're in contact with. And even without saying it, you will see difference, and people around you also manifesting and attracting and receiving and giving without even recognizing that they're doing it, because you've done it.
Yes.
And you're living it. You're the living expression. You're the living example of it.
Yes. And what another way to put this is by being the living example, you're creating an energetic imprint that then can permeate throughout the field, let's call it, or the grid, for anyone who wants to step into a similar imprint, a similar design. So they may not even know you, but they know the imprint of what a loving relationship feels like as a result of you being in a loving relationship unconditionally. They know what abundance in terms of wealth, in terms of expansion, in terms of love, in terms of joy, in terms of fun, in terms of play. They know what it feels like because they step in a similar vibration that you've already held. So it's kind of like paving a path. And then the more people that walk down that path, more of it gets paved until it's a permanent path. So you might be clearing the path first, and that's your version of living example. The next person can skip through the path and clear a little bit. Then the next person can run a little more down the path. And before you know it, that path can open up to hundreds of thousands of people who are ready to step into it. And what you will start doing with this, because you're writing down the quadrants, because you're actually paying attention to your creations, you'll be like, in 6 months' time, like, wait a second, I created that. I did that. And it's not, I did that in terms of they're copying me. It's like, oh, I did that. And now people are following suit in doing their version of that. And we've had this experience with multiple things now of like, oh yeah, we created that a long time ago and now it's normal. Like, so that's what happens when you're being the living example. It's the vibration of the example that people sense, feel, almost see without knowing that they're seeing it. And then they start to emulate it in their own way because they start to match the vibrational frequency of that imprint that you created.
I think also, just to kind of sum it up, is using receiving as a resource or as a tool. It's not only attracting and manifesting that you have up your sleeve. It's giving and receiving are just as equally important, and we don't really use them enough. We don't, because we need to clear a lot of stuff. Whereas attracting and manifesting, we can work through and manifest and attract at the same time. But with giving and receiving, you really need to clear what are your beliefs about abundance, what are your beliefs about relationships before you can get into the receiving mode, or else you're going to receive the old and not the new version of what you want. So using these quadrants and the spiral as the resource is receiving, because this is being gifted to you through knowledge and through experience and exposure. So now if it's in your awareness, it's being gifted to you, so you can start to play in the field and use it.
And bring the field to you. And that's what you're doing. That's the living example, is not going external. It's bringing the field to you so that the field becomes your experience. The playground becomes the field, which is here with you now, and then the reflection becomes your life. And in that, the only way it gets there is moving into receiving, stepping into the receiving mode, unconditional receiving. So it's funny, the attracting quadrant is the law of attraction. Giving has become the mastery of giving. Manifesting is imprinting in the field. And receiving, the best way I could put it, is unconditional receiving mode. Yes, we talk about going into receiving mode, but it has to be unconditional, because it's the conditions that stops your experience from being the experience you want it to be, and a higher, greater potential, where this is where you step into the law of potential for that to work for you. Because if you're living the same life and the same experience, most likely the one that you have not focused on is opening up to receiving more new, expansive type of experiences.
Another way to kind of check yourself is you're doing all of this work, you're clearing all this stuff, but things are still coming up that you think you've already cleared. It's not that you haven't cleared it. You haven't opened another channel of receiving those experiences in a different way. You haven't opened up more awareness of what else can I receive? You're limiting one direction of receiving, which might be, a lack funnel. It might be a confrontational funnel. It might be something of this kind of nature. So you've done everything else. You've done all the other quadrants. Everything is great. But when it actually comes to, well, where is it? And you're looking for it, it can only come in the ways that you're open to receiving. So just check yourself in that aspect, because that's a really good reflection type of exercise. And be really honest with yourself.
Yes. So we'll leave it on that note. I think that's a great way to sum up receiving. If you have just seen this for the first time, there is a playlist for Unity Currency, which is what we're discussing, this is the receiving quadrant, on our channel. We offer multiple different sessions for one-on-one personalization of not just this, but going into mapping your soul imprint and who it is that you are, and guidance and walking in magic and mastery. So that's also available via the links if you would like to book in. And then we offer a series of videos which are talking about all of this and more. Not just using it with Unity Currency, but using it in everyday life and opening up to love more, opening up to what the field is, understanding the new versions of metaphysics as we're moving forward, and the new discoveries. And Unity Consciousness is sharing, as well as other beings have come through and sharing a lot of different information and understandings of what the expansion is going on at the moment and what things we can work on. in almost a real time type of aspect. So enjoy the channel. It's all there for you. Honestly, we watch the videos and live the videos as a result, or live the messages as a result, and it's been profound in our own life. And we're just feeling like it's acceleration after acceleration after acceleration, and it's quite fun of an experience to have. So we lay it out for you so that you can have all the keys to live the best life the life you want to live, and live in your truest desires, live in your magic, live in your truth, live in your honest acceptance of all that you are. So it's there for you, and play with it and have fun with it. So
yeah, and we're available if you have any questions.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.